Hello Internet and welcome to Scared Schmidtless, the true crime and horror podcast hosted by yours truly, Alexander Schmidt, hence the very clever title I believe. I hope you've all been doing well this week. I'm bringing you a slightly different episode than normal. We're going to be looking at urban legends or urban myths. So these are things that people believe are These are things that people believe are real, but can't get the exact proof that they are, but there's always a sneaking suspicion, or it's a rumor. It's something like that. And today we're looking at Australia's biggest urban myths. So the country that I'm from, we're going to be looking at the urban myths about Australia. What's creepy? Conspiracy theorists, what have they thought about Australia? For example, Black Panther. There's a massive black tiger apparently that lives in Australia. Not tiger, panther. That lives in Australia that people have reportedly seen. Australia is already scary enough as it is. We have spiders, we have snakes, we have Wolf Creek. That's a thing. We have a lot of stuff in Australia that will injure us or hurt us, but we've learnt to adapt. And the urban myths are something that we know about or we have suspicions about, but we don't know if they're legitimate. So, with everything else trying to kill us in Australia, we want to be sure that these urban myths sort of are true. Though there are good stories. These are good stories you can tell by a fire. So today we're looking at Australia's biggest urban myths. Brought to you by The Observer and written by Matthew Dunn. I'm just taking some notes from this, but credit to the original writer. Let's start with the speculated Black Panther. Farmers, wildlife rangers, residents, and conspiracy theorists have long believed in the existence of a Black Panther living in the Blue Mountains, which feeds on livestock and wallabies. Photos of scratchings on trees, scat samples, which is poo samples, poo, hairs and molds of panther paws have all been used to prove the existence of the predator, but no solid evidence has ever been shown. That was until earlier this week when the Instagram and Facebook page Blue Mountains Explore shared alleged proof of the mythical beast in the form of a photograph snapped by a freaked out tourist near Blackheath. Was this the evidence needed to prove there are big cats lurking around the big mountains? Blue Mountains Explore page manager Cody told the radio host the backpacker who captured the picture was unaware he had possibly just closed the case on a long-running Aussie urban legend. There's never been a clearer shot of this panther, Kyle from the Kyle and Jackie O rejoiced. The picture attached here is captioned, this image was supposedly taken in the Blue Mountains, and it's very much a black cat. It almost looks like a monkey, but that's been stretched. But it's definitely a black, either dark brown cat of some sort. The only problem with the evidence is a quick reverse Google image search reveals the photo is actually from 2016, when it was used to claim there was a black panther living in Victoria, Australia. But does this mean there is a panther there? So many questions. By 2010, there had been more than 460 sightings of the panther in Hawkesbury, one of the smallest towns within the Blue Mountains, with former Mayor Bart Bassett one of the many believers. Having spent a decade interviewing more than 750 witnesses from across the country, authors of Australian Big Cats, Mike Williams and Rebecca Lang, also believe that the panther is real. There are so many discrepancies with government testing of scat and fur samples. There is a big cat out there, Mr. Williams said. However, a spokesperson from the Department of Primary Industries isn't convinced, suggesting most sightings are either a large feral cat or wallabies. Unfortunately, there is rarely sufficient evidence such as clear photos or footprints to warrant further investigation. The next one is called The Devil's Work, and this takes place at Sydney's Luna Park. On June 9th, 1979, the Godson family were waiting for a ferry from Circular Quay. to Sydney's Luna Park when they were approached by a satanic-looking figure dressed in a loincloth, mask, and horned headdress. Oh my god, that says horned headdress. That says horned headdress. The strange character placed his hand on 6-year-old Damien's shoulder and a photo was captured. Hours later, Damien, his 4-year-old brother, father, and 4 other children were killed when fire ripped through the Luna Park ghost train. Conspiracy theorists suggested a link between the strange hooded man and the horrific incident, but no connection was ever made. That's because they actually didn't know who that guy was. He was just a random dude dressed up in... it's actually quite a creepy image when you look at it. You can't see his face, it's covered. He's got like this matted hair over a white cloth and then horns coming out the side. Which, if he's not a part of the staff, that's a very fucking weird thing to wear to a theme park, essentially. That people do believe that this was the devil visiting Sydney himself, which I don't really believe. But I can see why people think that, because no one had any clue who this guy was, and the photo captured is one that is quite eerie to look at, and features the young boy. Was it Damien? Yeah, Damien with the guy, and that's the last photo ever captured before the disaster, which is quite creepy to look at. The next Australian urban legend is one that links directly to the iconic Sydney Harbour Bridge. And if you don't know what the Sydney Harbour Bridge is, do you even know what Australia is? It's one of the main things that people recognise when someone talks about Australia. It's the massive bridge over Sydney that is very often shown in tourist ads where they also feature the Opera House. It's a very, very recognisable bridge, especially if you're Australian. Everyone knows about this bridge. It's almost like the Westgate Bridge in Melbourne. Bodies in the bridge. When they started construction on Sydney's iconic Harbour Bridge in 1928, it's safe to say working conditions were not as strict as today. Proof can be found of 16 official deaths recorded during construction. However, an urban legend suggests there were 3 more deaths that were missed. As the story goes, 3 men slipped into the bottom of the brick pylons as they were being built, but given they were itinerant workers, no one noticed until it was too late. Given the bodies would have been extremely difficult to remove, and with pressure to finish construction going, the 3 men were never retrieved and their bodies remain sealed inside the bridge. While there is no evidence to confirm or deny the grim myth, it's very possible there could be entombed workers inside Sydney's architectural icon. It was 1928 after all. This one I do believe. If you've been to the Sydney Harbour Bridge, you know how big it is. And when it was being constructed back then, as mentioned, it wouldn't have had the guidelines that, bridge construction has today. If you look at some of the old construction photos of buildings and skyscrapers, I don't know how those guys didn't have a fear of heights. They weren't secured or anything. So this rumor or myth, urban legend, I am more inclined to believe, because it's very, very possible that 3 people could have fallen into those concrete things and then were never found and are still there today, because that bridge hasn't been demolished or anything. The Hawkesbury River Monster. It has been described as Australia's own Loch Ness Monster, but does a prehistoric monster really haunt the Hawkesbury River north of Sydney? Rex Gilroy certainly thinks so, with the cryptozoologist claiming to have seen the 12-metre giant surface in 2009. After researching the river monster since 1965, Mr. Gilroy has found accounts of the beast dating back to pre-colonial times. We have rock art depicting them. It seems the Aboriginal people knew of these creatures, he told the Daily Telegraph. Mr. Mr. Gilroy said he believes the creature is a plesiosaur from the Jurassic period, but he doesn't believe it's the only one found in the waters. We'd have to have a breeding population of no less to 300 to 600, he said. We're dealing with ocean creatures coming into the river to breed. There are areas of ocean, anything could live down there and you wouldn't know it. Now that's also, I don't really believe that in Hawkesbury there's a dinosaur. But when you find out, and this is something that I only found out a little bit ago, that we've only explored 5% of the ocean. That's why I have a fear of oceans. What else is fucking down there that we don't, we can't, our robots that we have at the moment can't get deep enough without having issues. Will we ever know what's at the bottom level of the ocean? We'll never be able to explore 100% of the ocean. There's creatures and species that we have no idea about probably living down there. And that creeps me the fuck out. One type of drawing that I see often is someone swimming on the surface of the ocean, and then there's a hand, and then underneath there's this mutated monster, and that stuff just creeps me out so much. I don't like the ocean at all. I'll stick to the swimming pools, because I know there's no fucking giant jellyfish about to suck my foot. That almost went the wrong way down there. So I'll stick to the fucking pools. Thank you very much. The Westall UFO incident. Children as young as 7 were confronted by men in sharp black suits and warned against talking as emergency services and military swarmed the area. It was 11 a.m. on April 6, 1966, when Australia's largest mass UFO sighting took place in Westall, Victoria. Students and teachers from Westall High School and Westall State School and members of the public claimed to have watched as 3 metallic objects with no obvious markings maneuvered silently through the sky. The objects landed in a paddock adjacent to the schools before quickly flying away, leaving large circles of flattened grass with well-defined discoloured edges behind. In the hours following the incident, emergency services, the military, and the media were in attendance trying to make sense of the baffling encounter. Several witnesses claim sharply dressed men in dark suits warned them from speaking about the incident. That's when you know it's a red flag. Apparently 200 people... Oh no, here we go. Researcher Shane Ryan has spent the last decade of his life investigating the incident, and after speaking with more than 100 primary witnesses, he believes something strange occurred. It was so unusual, it occurred in broad daylight and had been seen by so many people landing on the ground before taking off again, he told news.com. Although federal and state government agencies refused to comment about the incident at the time, government documents unearthed in 2014 offer an explanation for the sighting. The documents revealed a secret radiation testing project known as the Hubble program was to blame, a joint US-Australian initiative developed to monitor atmospheric radiation levels using large silver balloons equipped with sensors between 1960 and 1969. It's believed a test balloon was blown off course after being launched from Mildura. Now, this next urban legend is one that my pa told me about all the time, and I remember it scared me for a lot of my childhood. I don't know if it's real, but as a kid, you just believe things, This one is the Bunyip. And this is a creature that lurked in the billabong. Now, I was told by my pa multiple times not to go near a billabong or a swamp because of this creature, and I never did. Unfamiliar to the sites and alien environment, early European settlers quickly took to the idea of a bunyip being a new creature waiting to be discovered, and set out on our foolish attempts to find one in hope of fame and riches. To various local Aboriginal tribes, this wasn't the case. The bunyip was a malevolent force that lurked at the bottom of creeks and billabongs, ready to devour anyone silly enough to wander down at the wrong time. Bunyips have been reported to have horses' manes, dog faces, flippers, fangs, tusks, one eye, 2 eyes, shaggy fur, short hair, horns, and to be variously as big as a horse and as small as a dog. All very confusing. What we know for certain is that this is one myth that has been embraced by Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians alike. Some say the legend of the Bunyip stems from Aboriginal ancestral memories of the Diprotodon australis, a 3-ton bear-like creature that was the biggest marsupial in existence before it became extinct around 40,000 years ago. So with all those features that the Bunyip reportedly may have, flippers, fangs, dog faces, horns, short hair, one eye, two eyes, it's almost like you're in a character customizer for a game. you click randomize character and that's what you get. I don't really believe in the Bunyip now. As a child I did, and my pa really sold me on that this Bunyip was real. And I remember I was very scared of swamps and billabongs for a long time. But I don't think a Bunyip is a legitimate thing. Next one is drop bears. If attacked, take 2 Panadol and prepare for certain death. I'm just going to keep this one really short, and I'm just going to tell you that drop bears aren't a legitimate thing. It's just a koala, dude. They're one of our fluffiest, cutest creatures, and you can cuddle them. They're not drop bears. The myth here is that these drop bears are slightly darker than koalas and have blood-dripping fangs, and they hunt at night. So if you're walking in a forest where there's trees or something, you better be wary because a drop bear could essentially jump from the trees and kill you. No, not true. I don't believe in this one at all. I don't believe in this. I think it's a good deterrent to tourists to scare them off. Yeah, I think it's a good deterrent. It's a good, oh, you're a tourist, I'm going to scare you with this non-true story about koalas. And the last urban myth about Australia that I found is in Melbourne, and it's one that I very, very much believe in. And it's the Crown Casino morgue. Now, this is essentially, Crown Casino is the place to go when you want to spend money, you want to go to the pokies, you want to gamble, you want to go out on the town for a night, spend some money. You want to go to Crown. Crown Casino is where a lot of people lose a lot of money. I'm not a gambler, and I have no interest in Crown Casino other than this myth, and that it just is a nice place to be if you're not into gambling or something like that. It's just a nice structure. I would also like to quickly add, before I get into the morgue theory, that the reason Crown Casino, the hotel bit, doesn't have balconies is because people who gamble and lose all their money will commit suicide. So that is why they don't have balconies at the Crown Casino in Melbourne. Every day, gamblers visit Crown Casino in Southbank in the hopes to win big. But if you believe this urban myth, not all of them leave alive. This legend goes that Crown has attempted to conceal a high mortality rate by building a morgue in the bowels of their Southbank complex to store bodies. So what is suggested here is that they have tunnels underneath Crown where they escort bodies of people who have gambled away all their money and then killed themselves. And it's their way of quickly getting rid of the body without anybody noticing. And there's a very, very strong suggestion that the bathroom stalls, the very last one, isn't actually a bathroom stall. It's always closed. It's not a bathroom stall. It's actually the way they get rid of bodies of people who have killed themselves in the bathrooms. It's apparently a rotator that goes straight to the tunnels. That's allegedly. It's also suggested there are personnel trained to smuggle bodies discreetly off the premises using secret passages. and apparently the high suicide rate in the bathroom stalls saw Crown engineer them to rotate for swift body disposal. When contacted by the Herald Sun in 2014, a Crown spokeswoman empathetically denied the morgue's existence and appeared somewhat exasperated that the creepy story keeps coming up in conversation year after year. They're all the urban myths about Australia I have for you today. I wanted to keep it a short sort of episode. The Crown Morgue one I heavily believe in. I definitely think because Crown was built on top of tunnels. There's a bunch of tunnels under Melbourne from old railway systems and stuff. And I definitely believe that there's some tunnels under there that Crown or the staff access when there are incidents that have taken place. I don't know how the hell to find that out or what the fuck I would have to do to find actual proof. But I'm very convinced that they have something like that in place, for instance, especially considering gambling has one of the highest suicide rates because people want to go in and get that high of getting a big win, but always leave feeling like they've lost everything. I'm so glad I'm not into gambling at all. I have no interest in it. So I'm going to wrap the podcast up there for today. It's a nice little short one. I wanted to talk about some Australian urban legends. I want to talk about some other country urban legends as well. We might do Japan's urban legends, Russia's German legends. Oh my God, I just said German legends. What a fuck up. I'm not editing that out. That's funny. I feel like I want to do more urban legends depending on the country and whatnot. I feel like Japan's would be very fun to look into. If you want to send a story into the show or you have an experience yourself that is horror or true crime related that you want to share, the email you can do that at is scaredschmidtlesspod@gmail.com, or just have a browse in the show notes. I also have a Twitter and Instagram, YouTube if you want to follow those. Leave the show a positive review if you enjoyed it. It really does help with the algorithm and everything like that. And as mentioned before, please do reach out if you want to. I'm not scary at all, I promise, despite my language slip-ups that I may have. If you want to reach out about any of the urban myths, I highly encourage you to do so. If you believe in one, I don't know, do what you want, man. Thank you all for listening in, and I'll most likely be back next week, and stay safe.